Recording in progress.
Good evening. I'd like to start our city council meeting. Oh, I know I'm getting. Mhm. There we go. Nope. Okay, is that better? Okay, there we go. Welcome to this evening. We have Councilmember Jacob, Councilmember Worthen, Councilmember Green, Councilmember Whitelock, Councilmember Bloom, and Councilmember McConaughey present, as well as several members of staff. This evening, the first item on our agenda is ranked choice voting, and we have Miss Sloan here to speak to us.
Thank you, Council Member Whitelock. Thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight about the upcoming 2023 municipal election. But it's going to be here before you know it. There are three topics that I would like the opportunity to open up for discussion tonight. The first is ranked choice voting. Now, we have a requirement every year until 2026 with the pilot project, the ranked choice voting pilot project. We have to either opt in or opt out by April every year. So tonight, I come to you asking you the question if the council would like to discuss ranked choice voting discuss the ranked choice voting option for 2023 election. And if you could tell me yes or no if you want to hear it. If you don't want to hear it, then I'll move on. Are you guys open for discussion?
So basically what Ms. Sloan needs to know is if we want to entertain doing ranked choice voting. And so now's the time I need everyone to say yes or no.
Yes. Or do you just want to just have a discussion about it tonight? Like, I have some information that I'd like to give you. If you want to hear it, then, and that's really what I'm not asking you to make a decision right
but
now.
if there aren't four of us that want to
Okay.
entertain it, then, okay,
Okay.
where are you? Okay,
All right.
I have enough that want to hear it.
Perfect. Alan, will you move me to the next slide, please? So here's a timeline for ranked choice voting. Whether we opt in or opt out, in the fall every year until 2026, we need to meet in the fall and have a discussion, are we going to opt in or are we going to opt out? If we opt in, winter of 2022, so I'm talking about this upcoming year, I would like to start doing some voter education, start getting the public educated on what exactly ranked choice voting is. April of 2023, I have to notify the county and the Lieutenant Governor's office whether we are in or out. August of 2023 is the declaration of candidacy for ranked choice voting. And then again, November is the general election. Next, Ellen. A little bit of history. The city of West Jordan has opted out of ranked choice voting in 2019 and 2021. In 2021, 23 cities participated in ranked choice voting. 9 of those cities were in Salt Lake County: Bluffdale, Cottonwood Heights, Draper, Midvale, Mill Creek, Riverton, Salt Lake City, Sandy, and South Salt Lake. After the general election, the city, or the county clerk's office, told us that they underestimated the price of what a ranked choice voting election was going to be. So they're telling us to expect an increase in the cost of having a ranked choice voting election in the next election, so in 2023.
What was it that they underestimated?
That, I'm not 100% sure because we didn't participate, but I can get you that information. Wrong way.
Tangi, can you touch really quick on how the cost of elections is determined? Is it the number of voters we have? Is there a fixed cost plus the number of voters? Or
It's a little bit of both. It's fixed on the number of voters that we have and then what the cost is to the county to run it. So they come up with that number based off registered voters and then the services that they offer us.
So it's not going to be directly proportional as far as like if Sandy cost X and we have 20% more population than ours is X plus 20, it's going to be something along those lines, but not exactly.
Right.
Gotcha.
Right. And then also on top of that cost, we have to pay a maintenance fee on the ranked choice voting software. And they split that cost up amongst all the cities that participate. A little bit of voter education information on resources. Voter education materials are available through the Lieutenant Governor's office. Now, in the past, they've told us they had funds for us for ranked choice voting. It's not funds, it's information, education information materials. They send them to us, and then we still have to pay to send all that out to the public. Education we can do through social media posts, city websites, newsletters, flyers at events, town halls, seminars, the senior center, libraries, and civic gatherings. I had a couple of conversations with some city recorders in the Salt Lake Valley. The first one I talked to Sandy City. You all know how the Sandy City election went. There were some issues. The pros for this, the feedback that I got with the pros was it was a shorter campaign time and it was less expensive. However, they did indicate to me that they wish they would have done a primary in the ranked choice voting, which would have been an additional cost to them. The cons were they had a lot of voter confusion, even though with all the education that they did, they felt like they didn't have enough time. They didn't give enough time to the public to get them educated on exactly what ranked choice voting is. They had over 4,000 exhausted ballots of 21,000, so the winner didn't necessarily receive the majority of all the votes.
Can you define exhausted ballots? What do you mean?
So if the ballot wasn't filled out correctly.
Oh, okay. So
Or they only
invalidated ballots. Okay.
Or they only voted for 3 out of, they only ranked their top 1, 2, 3 and didn't go through 8.
I don't think that's exhausted. I think that's a perfectly valid ballot for those first 3 rounds.
The feedback that I got was they had a lot of people that just voted for one person, so the ballot was exhausted.
So those
After
are,
that's the first round, it goes to the second round, there's nobody to choose.
well,
So
that doesn't mean that the winner didn't necessarily receive a majority of all votes. If you have a primary election that has 40,000 people show up and only 20,000 people show up for the general election, those extra 20,000 people's votes still counted where they voted. It just didn't count when they didn't show up to vote in the later round. Ranked choice voting is also called instant runoff voting, by the way, so that's why
Yeah, but the idea of, the theory behind ranked choice voting is that the winner always has a majority of the vote.
Of the votes that are
No, it
applied
always
in that
has a
final round.
majority of the votes that voted, but when you get an exhausted ballot, they didn't get a majority of the vote because people exhausted their ballot beforehand and in essence, they didn't participate in the runoff.
Right, exactly.
So-
But that is their decision. That's not
Right, that's their
necessarily
decision,
wrong.
but that means that
Right.
that means the winner did not get a majority
Right.
of the votes.
But again, if you had 40,000 people vote in a primary and 20,000 people vote in a general election, and the winner wins with 10,001 votes, that's 50% of those who showed up for that round of voting.
In
Oh, okay,
addition,
now we can all
these
count
first
names.
couple years are always going to be growing pains, and you're going to find a
Yeah,
lot of
but-
these pros, cons adjusted as more and more people get used to it and more cities continue this process.
And I can get
Ranked
more
choice voting-
information on
Ranked choice
that.
voting's is smoke and mirrors.
Okay, I'll move on to the next one.
Logical argument, counselor, thank you.
One of the other cons was that it took too long to declare a winner in a close race. They waited 2 weeks before they knew who the winner was in that election.
Isn't that kind of the same, though, in all elections that are close? Derek Kitchen didn't know for 2 weeks, for example. In his election, it wasn't ranked choice voting, it was just a close election. And
Council, please remember that Ms. Sloan is simply reporting what these
Sorry,
cities have
yeah.
told her. So I don't think debating with her is appropriate.
The next was Draper City. Got feedback from the recorder from Draper City. Shorter campaign time, less expensive, no primary, and some of their residents loved it. So that was some of the pros. The cons, there was no way for a hand recount. And I wanted to touch a little bit on that. On a no recount, they had a close election and they wanted to do a recount. And in the code, it gives you a criteria that you have to meet in order to ask for a recount. And when they do a recount, simply, if you meet those qualifications for a recount, they simply just send the ballots back through. They push a button and it goes back through to give you your count, and they do it once. So I wanted to touch on that. Some of the cons were voter education. They spent a lot of time and money on voter education, and there were still some issues. Ballots not counted if filled out incorrectly. The residents weren't part of the discussion. Their residents wanted to have more of a say. And when I talked to the Draper recorder, she said, if you can do like an open comments at your council meeting, I don't know that we can really have a public hearing, but really encourage citizens to come and get involved if you decide, one way or another. Their residents really wanted to be more involved in that, in saying yes or no. And then also the recorder is supposed to confirm each round is done correctly, and she felt like she wasn't involved enough in that to say that she did that. So that was one con that they had. But they did have a lot of residents, she said, that really liked it. So that's really all I have for ranked choice voting. I just wanted to give you a brief feedback on what I had heard and things that we need to look out for in making our decision moving forward.
So I have a question because I
Okay.
want to make sure I'm understanding. So if I fill out my ballot and there's 6 choices and I only choose 2, then my ballot isn't counted at all?
It counts, but only for the 2 that you rank. So if there's 6 people you need to vote for, you need to fill out for all 6. For those to move, go ahead.
That's not
But
quite
if
right.
I only filled out 2, then what do they do with those 2 votes?
They get counted in the first 2 rounds.
In the first 2 rounds. I'm probably, it's so difficult to explain just in words, it's easier to show. Like if we had a diagram, we could show it in a moving diagram. And I'm happy to do something like that and come back and show that. So you have a better idea of how that works.
Can I make a clarifying statement? Sorry. My understanding is if you only voted for 2 out of 6, not do those votes count for just the first 2 rounds. Those votes count for as long as those 2 candidates are in the rounds. As soon as those, if you voted for candidate 1 and candidate 2, and if they're eliminated after 3 rounds, and in the final 2 or 3 rounds, candidates 4, 5, and 6 are in the instant runoff, that's when your ballot, you haven't cast any ballots for candidates 4, 5, and 6. So that's when your ballot isn't applying.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Corbin.
Is that, am I explaining it to your understanding as well? And Tangi, your understanding also?
Did the council have any other questions?
When, I mean, we're having the discussion now. Are we going to make a decision tonight? Or are we going to postpone this to do another decision? What are we going to do?
Well, I would say that if Ms. Sloan wants to do public outreach, which we would need to, which would need to be done this winter, which is just a couple months away, we kind of need to give her direction tonight. I feel that,
Yeah,
what do you need from us?
I'm really concerned about educating the public and make sure that I know how ranked choice voting is working, and that I can make sure that I'm educating the public.
And I was at Bluffdale, Draper, one of them, that the residents wanted a choice of whether we did it or not. That's, I don't know, Mr. Quayle, how would we let the residents have a choice on that? Because if I weren't in this seat, I'd want a choice
There we
also.
go. We can hold public hearings on things that are not required. You could also do town halls, things of that nature that you've done on, for example, the general plan just recently, to allow citizen input. Before Tangi does do outreach, it may make sense to have a formal decision, not just guidance tonight, but a formal decision to opt in or opt out before that work's done. But to get citizen input, there's a variety of options.
So we
which
could
have been
have a
exercised.
public hearing that we post and we send out
It's not
something.
required, but that
Right,
could happen.
but
I think the recommendation, council, would be, if there's 4 or more of you that want to pursue this, then the council office would work with Ms. Sloan to bring a resolution adopting it, and promoting it in the future.
Let me interrupt you. You would not only would you have to have a resolution to opt in, you're going to have to amend the current city ordinance that requires us to have a primary. So let's just be clear that our current city ordinance is set that it says we have to have the primary, and so we not only have to opt in, we would have to modify the election code.
one of the biggest arguments I've heard why you do this is so you don't have to do a primary and it's cheaper. But if Sandy feels they should have done a primary with ranked choice voting, that kind of seems to,
And
take
you
away
know,
that
we have
advantage.
a little bit, we could have more discussions and I can get you more information. So, you know, if you have questions, we can answer that. I just want to make sure that we do have some time to educate the public if you guys do decide to do it.
Councilmember Pack, what do you have to share?
Oh, thank you. My thought is, since we're talking about the way that everybody votes, couldn't we have a vote on the way everybody votes instead of having 7 people vote on the way that 116,000 people vote? Well, you know, you get 10 to 20% that actually vote, right? But wouldn't this be something that could be considered to be placed on a ballot for voting by the residents instead of just a open house or town hall where a very limited number of people show up, either out of not being informed or not recognizing the significance of the matter, or apathy. It seems if they get something in the mail and they need to vote on it. I know that that's expensive in and of itself,
Yeah.
because you're trying to save money. But I'm always hesitant to have, it's tough because we are elected to make the hard decisions on behalf of the people, but the people want to be heard. And when this just seems like the fundamental right that people have is to vote, and to change the way that people vote, boy, that just, if it's confusing for us, not that we're more astute than the average resident, because we are the average resident, it seems like this would just be really confusing as I've thought about it last year and 2 years before that. So is there any, what is the thought on that of having it be put up to a resident vote?
So this coming election season, we don't have anything that we need to have on a ballot, right? So if we did this, it would mean that we'd be paying for an election. So I wouldn't be in favor of doing it this year,
neither would I.
but maybe next year. And
Then you got to remember that that would be, are you asking to put
Well,
on the
what it
ballot
would mean
whether
is that we
a
wouldn't
citizen would
use
want to
it.
do it or not?
yeah.
Then you'd have to do that every year.
Well, just
So
if
you put it
we're-
on the ballot and then.
Similar to how we changed our form of government.
But that one's required by
putting-
statute.
Because we have to, the pilot project, we have to
But
do it
just-
through
Right,
2026.
but
Putting
if
it on
the
the ballot
majority,
next year, and then if it passes, then
Yeah.
in 2025, that's when we do ranked choice voting.
and if the majority of our residents wanted to do ranked choice voting, then we wouldn't need to ask again. We'd just go with ranked choice voting. I think is that what you're
Yes, thank you.
expressing? Yeah. Yeah, so, but I think what you need from us is if there are four of us that want to explore it for this year, really, because otherwise you don't know where to go, right?
For
Yeah.
coming up.
And I'm not, you don't need to do it today. We can come back and talk about it another time. We are here talking about it. I just wanted to have early discussions about ranked choice voting, just because my main concern is education.
Well, I'm going to go on record. I'm not in favor of ranked choice voting at this point. I have not seen enough good come out of it to be supportive. So basically, I think that's really what you need to know is where we stand. So Councilmember Jacob?
I'm very much in favor of
Favor.
continuing down the road.
No, not right now.
No.
100% no.
I am 100% yes.
No for right now. I've seen it work very, very well in places. I spent some time for work in Australia and I saw how their elections worked. And they had some pretty significant advertising and marketing that went to helping people understand how things worked. But they also have a little bit of a different system there. Here, where it's primarily a two-party system, I think there were like 8 or 12 different parties that were represented on the ballot. They've got a different format to present information to folks. What we saw here during the election for the at-large seats, it was almost a ranked choice with the number of people that we had already. And just because we're the municipal government, not federal, that doesn't get as much attention, people aren't doing their homework. Ranked choice will work well if people do their homework on all the different candidates that are out there, and there's a good way to get similar information so you can compare them. But most people just looked at one or two and then stopped at that and really didn't go much further. It felt like we had a trial run with it, and the folks that I spoke with felt like even as we had the at-large positions, they didn't really have enough information. So to formalize that with ranked choice, I don't think would really be in the best interest of the citizens. People seem to do better when we do have the primary, and then it can kind of get narrowed down to just a couple, and then they can focus in their efforts on researching 2 people rather than 6. I think it's going to, I think that with time, we could find that it works well, but elections are such a foundational part of our government and the freedoms that we have here that this is not something that I really want to be on the leading edge and instigating a change on. I don't want to be part of the municipality that's going through the learning curve and finding out things the hard way and potentially making mistakes. I'd rather wait, learn from what others have done, and then move forward once the kinks have been ironed out. I mean, some of the things like the inability for the recall, or not the recall, the recount, and some of the other technical challenges. Having a chance to talk with Sherry Swenson a couple of years ago and hearing from the county recorder some of the hurdles that their office was up against. I appreciate the work that so many elections officials have put into researching and trying to put this in place. I'm just not ready to go with it quite yet. That's it. I'm happy to have the conversation. I'd love to learn what's coming out, what's changing, how things are being adapted to make it more feasible. So anytime you say, are you guys willing to hear about ranked choice? Do you want to chat about it? My hand will go up to say yes, but I'm not quite ready to participate. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. So I think what the body probably wants, though, I don't think we have to decide that we want to do it to start educating.
Okay.
I think that we can, like if we have an event, like even the tall and small ball, we could have a little survey card saying, you know, other municipalities are doing ranked choice voting. What are your thoughts? And we could start gathering some information from our residents on their thoughts, and I think that would be really helpful to the council.
Okay, I'm happy to do that.
So, just a thought.
So-
Mr. Lee?
Yes, I'm sorry to interrupt, Chair. I wanted to ask, we are working on a citizen survey this year. We can include a question about ranked choice voting on the citizen survey. Is that something you want us to explore?
Do we want that included? Yeah. I'm seeing enough head bobs to say yes.
Okay, thank you.
So can I ask, Chair Whitelock, what was the vote? I didn't quite get the vote. Did we have enough that you want to, or?
You have
4
5
no.
that would prefer not and 2 that would love to.
Thank you. The next is the annual financial disclosures for elected officials and candidates. So currently, Alan, can you move to the next slide for me? Currently, we elected officials right now have to have an annual financial disclosure to the city recorder's office by June 1st. My request is to change that date to May 1st, May 15th. And the reason why is because the first week of June is also the declaration of candidacy. And so to get reports coming in from all over I just want to make sure that I am not having any room for error and that I'm doing things correctly. So I would like to ask if we could change that to May 1st, May 15th.
Does anyone have any concern with us changing the date that we're required to turn in our financials? Speak up now if you do.
Tangi's gonna.
I think we're all just fine with sometime in May, as long as you let us know, give us those heads up. Hey, this is due. Hey, it's due tomorrow. Come on.
We
Happy
have
to
to
do
change
that.
we'll actually have to amend the ordinance to change the date. So when we get to that point, we'll amend the ordinance and change the date. And that'll coincide with Tangi buying the high-speed, low-drag software that we get to plug in that'll actually keep track of things better.
I am. I'm working on a software solution for financial disclosures called EasyVote. It's currently right now in the city attorney's office waiting for approval, and then I will purchase that software for the next election.
And if anybody wants to see Easy Vote, Sandy City uses it for their financial disclosures, don't they?
Yeah, they do. You can go onto their website and see how that works now. It's pretty slick.
Does it work with all devices?
Yes.
Okay, that'd be good.
Yeah, it's a web-based software.
It's a web-based software, yeah. So it will work with your Apple device, it'll work with your Microsoft device, and it also works on your phone.
Awesome.
But
Yeah.
this Lotus spreadsheet we've been using since 1984 is so endeared to all of us.
And some of you like to change things around in there. It makes it a little difficult. So I'm always calling Denise, asking her, can you help me figure out how they got this to do that?
I don't know if it was on purpose.
The next is the council district and precinct boundary adjustment update. I have reached out, in April of 2022, we approved resolution 22011. And I did send that over to Salt Lake County, to update our precincts. I've called twice, and the first time I called, they told me that they would be updating those precincts after the primary election of the county election that's happening now. And that didn't happen. So I called again last week, and now it's going to be after the general election. So as soon as they update those precincts, I will let you guys know.
Intriguing, thank you.
Yep.
So we're running the precincts on the old data instead of the new.
Yeah,
Okay, that's just interesting.
Until after the county election.
that's what I got. They told me I had to wait until after the election
Wait,
was over.
government's going slow?
Just a little.
Surprising.
But, so what we have to do though, as part of, since we're going to amend chapter 15, I had to stop, look, see what number it was. Chapter 15, in that title, in Title 1, we need to fix that one sentence that says that about the precincts, because that was putting the cart before the horse. So we need to remove that line, this to clean up the code, to get us it consistent with what the county does.
Yeah, okay. I'll work with David Quayle on that. And that is all that I have tonight. Does anybody have any questions?
And Mr. Quayle, you're the election code guy, right?
Yes, I am. Well, Tangi first, and then
But I mean,
help.
you're the election code attorney.
Correct.
We can start working on that, but there is one more discussion coming up in a future council meeting on elections. So we can proceed down that road, but there's still one more discussion left. I think it's scheduled for next meeting, isn't it, Alan, on the 14th in work session?
At this time.
So, we'll have that discussion, and then we can just make the one, if we make those changes or do whatever, we can make one whopping with just all the changes on Title 15 at the same time.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, we have discussion of conceptual amendments to the Chamber of Commerce Service Agreement between the city and ChamberWest. Mr. Pingra.
Is that the right one? Okay. Council, thank you for a little bit of your time today. It seems that there's general consensus. I don't want to put words in anyone's mouth, but it seems to be general consensus to continue the relationship with ChamberWest. I would personally advocate for that. We've formed a great working relationship with ChamberWest. I really do think they do a tremendous job for us. And a review of the services agreement that we have between them. I think they're hitting on all the points that are obligated under this agreement, which happy to discuss if anyone wants to. But the primary purpose of today's discussion is simply about the inclusion of a provision that the council's previously recommended, and that is a provision that would allow them to use municipal facilities so that you guys don't have to have fee waivers anytime they want to have an event within West Jordan's, using our council chambers or the Shore Gallery, whatever that may look like after the renovation. Do you guys recall this conversation? Okay. So in consultation with Barbara about that provision, I asked her if there was a specific number. She said that really four events is more than she anticipates that would be necessary. So my question to you is simply this: does the council support adding that provision into the agreement? And if so, we will work with the city attorneys and get that added to the agreement. And then we can bring that back to you at a council meeting for review and any discussion if necessary.
So reading through the current contract, I believe we should take out the first 30 and 60 days, though, when it comes back to us.
Yes, we will.
Okay. I think the question, council, is A, are we willing to put a partnership in there for events so that they can use, I would think, our facilities or the Viridian, because if they're a partner with us, we should be able to use the Viridian as well. And how many of those days are we comfortable with? Are we comfortable with 4? Do we want to have it be fewer than 4? So, looking for some input.
I like it. I like that it shows that, we're working together and bringing the business together. And I like being able to use Viridian and or, the office. And I think 4 is a wise number, and they already anticipate they may not use that, but have that option. I think it's wise, and I'm in favor of both of that.
Great, thank you.
And Chair Whitelock, just for clarity, 4 per year was the, that may have been inferred, but 4 per year.
Yeah, I think
Is
that
what we
was
would add into the
understood.
agreement.
So I see no other lights, so I'm going to go down and look at you. And
I do have
Okay.
one question. I mean, Council Chair Whitelock already talked about the 30, 60-day provision we
Yes.
can yank out because this isn't a renewal. I'm wondering why on our copy, it just said, the term is highlighted in yellow. Is there any reason for that?
No, so this was the official copy that was ratified.
Okay.
And so this is from Laserfish and has the resolution, everything attached.
And
That's-
for some reason,
yeah.
they just highlighted the yellow
I
thing when they
apologize
scanned
if
it.
that caused
I was
any
just wondering what the
confusion.
significance of it was, or if that was, you're highlighting, but if you were just highlighting something, so, that's just because it was old, so, okay. But I will make one more comment. I went to, I'm the one that, for the council that serves on the board, and I forgot to bring it in. It's sitting on the front seat of my car. The annual this last week, we went over the financials, and I was extremely disappointed in ChamberWest when they came in that their expenses were 1 penny more than their budget. So, I told Barbara, I said, really, you
The
can't get
nerve.
closer than 1 penny?
The nerve, yeah.
But if you want to see the financials, I have them. They look good. ChamberWest is accomplishing a lot of things, particularly, and I will just, as we're talking about this, to the mayor and to Alan, if we have employees that we want to send to some of the leadership training, the women in business sessions they hold, any of those, let's not be afraid to send some of our employees to those luncheons and pay for some professional development because of the good things they do. But if you do want to see the financials, I didn't want to make copies for everybody because they are a limited distribution copy and have a bunch of proprietary data. But if anybody wants to see that, let me know and I'll be glad to share it with you.
Thank you.
Thank you for your feedback.
So if you're not in favor of adding 4, indicate to me as I look around.
I don't care. I don't like that we're a member of a chamber of commerce, so that's just me.
Okay. It looks like no one opposes to adding that, so.
Wonderful. Thank you for the feedback, and we'll come back to the council with an amended agreement for your discussion. Thank you.
Hey, thank you. All right, well, we are done with the work session of our portion. It's hard to know how much we're going to talk, so I'm sorry. We could have added another topic, it appears. So we will have a break until 7 o'clock, and we will reconvene for our business portion of our meeting.